So an electrician would benefit as they would be doing maximum demand quite frequently. Sometimes they'd want to see how much room they have on a circuit. The electrician might also want to see if the site has an overvoltage issue, if they're getting complaints with PV inverters switching off an EV. They're on a commercial site. If you've got an incoming feed that's rated at a certain kVA, they might want to uprate that if their site's expanding. So they can demonstrate that, print a report, and then send that over to the DNO to then show how much headroom they need to expand by.
A British Gas survey of 6,000 SMEs found that 46% of their electricity consumption happened outside of work hours, an expensive and environmentally damaging waste. But there is a tool that can help businesses, utility providers, manufacturers, and data centers eliminate energy drains, maximize efficiency, and adapt electrical systems for a greener future. Data published in the 2023 edition of FNJ reveals that 39% of global carbon emissions come from buildings, with 28% of these emissions resulting from operational activities. Worse, 70% of surveyed facilities managers wanted to reduce their business's carbon footprint, but 62% of these respondents felt they did not have access to the data necessary to make meaningful changes. That's where the Chauvin Arnoux PEL113 Power Energy Logger comes in. Here to tell us about how it can help lower carbon emissions in an increasingly energy-intensive world is Chauvin Arnoux's Regional Sales and Technical Manager, Elliot Ajose. Welcome, Elliot. Previously with Chauvin Arnoux, we've talked about the PEL104, 106 and PEL51. Today, we're talking about the PEL113. Where does this model fit in Chauvin Arnoux range?
So this is our mid-range unit within the Chauvin Arnoux range. It is 5 times as quick as the 103 in the sense of what it can capture.
Does it supersede the old PEL104, 103?
Yes. Yep. So this has superseded the 103, but we've made it 5 times faster. Yeah. And obviously the 104 is no longer available either. So this is the unit as far as the mid-range goes that people can order.
So when we talked about the PEL51, that was single phase, but the PEL113, that's single phase, split phase, and 3-phase. Is that right?
Exactly that, and DC as well. So we can change electrical parameters and what it's attached to, what electrical setup it's attached to, whether it's single phase, 3-phase, split phase, DC, various different parameters in there that you can change, and electrical setups that you can attach it to.
So as it can be used in all those different circuits, what kind of applications is this suitable for?
So it could be anyone from rail, any distribution energy network people, it could be electricians, it could be people for sizing PV and EV installation. So it does have a very broad and wide use cases and people who would be utilising this unit.
So where the PEL51 covered commercial and residential, would this cover commercial, residential and industrial?
PEL51 is suitable for very light commercial, whereas this unit is, is a 3-phase unit, so it can capture all the data on 3-phase systems. It can also be changed to single-phase systems, so it's got a broad spectrum and what electrical setup you can attach a unit to.
Yeah, it's more versatile.
Yeah, more versatile. It's still got that ease of use, but it just has a lot more applicational uses than the PEL51.
Could you give us a quick rundown of the parameters the PEL113 can measure?
So the PEL113 can capture 5 times as fast as the 103. It logs voltage and current, and using that data, it can give you stuff like crest factor. It can give you stuff like power factor. We can also measure harmonics up to the 50th order for voltage and current. Now, where that stands in is it's a percentage of the fundamental. So anything that isn't at that fundamental frequency, it will capture that data. So we can see where inefficiencies are happening live, and we can also see it via an app if we wanted to, which really helps with various different applicational uses.
You mentioned that you could view it remotely did you say via an app?
So yes.
So which communication interfaces does the PEL113 support?
So as far as communications goes, it's got an RJ45 Ethernet at the bottom, so an Ethernet port that we can connect it up and remotely view. It's also got a Wi-Fi, and what that enables you to do is connect it to your Wi-Fi, and then allows you to remotely log into that anywhere in the world using our server. So really good as far as communication goes, and where it benefits the user is we know how expensive it is today. To send someone to site, it's really expensive. And then ultimately, you can reduce that cost. An electrician can go and fit the unit, or an engineer, and then they can remotely download into the unit and get the data. So if they are having issues with a certain site, whether it be an overvoltage, whether it be they're wanting to see the energy, they can download all that remotely.
So that enables them to do other jobs in the meantime, and it's good for long-term surveys in difficult to access locations, I imagine.
Exactly that. This is, if you're traveling 5 hours to fit a logger, it's beneficial to connect it to our server and then download that data from home.
So speaking of data, how much data can the PEL113 log, and for how long?
So it depends on what you're basically choosing to log. If you're choosing to get summary over 1 minute or 60 minutes, it's obviously going to take a lot more time. In the sense of the data that it's logging, it does depend on what parameters you pre-configure the unit at.
So does it have a built-in memory?
Yes, so it's up to a 32 gigabyte SD card. Okay. And not only that, you can do down to 200 milliseconds, so it's 5 times as fast as the 103.
And how quickly that 32 gigabytes fills up depends on how quickly you set your logging intervals.
Yes, exactly that. It really does depend on what you're setting it up and configuring it prior to going out to site.
So getting all that data, that's great for getting like a comprehensive insight into what's going on in your system, but all that data can be quite overwhelming. So what has Chauvin Arnoux done to make data interpretation easier?
So what we've done is we've created how-to videos. And where that benefits the user is when they get the unit, they can type in YouTube how to set up, and it will give them a nice video that enables them to do that.
And I suppose the advice also would be to only log the parameters that you need.
Exactly. Yeah. You can switch off and log what parameters you want within the unit itself. So if you just want to log voltage, you can do that. If you want to log current, you can just put the CTs and do that along with the figure of 8 lead, and it will just capture that current. So you choose what you want to log.
Could I also ask you about the PEL transfer software? Because that can help users with the data interpretation as well, can't it?
Mm-hmm. So the PEL transfer software, it allows you to generate reports with a click of a button. So if you're an electrician or an engineer and you want to basically create a report for the customer, you can put your logo into the PEL transfer itself and produce that very easily. Not only that, it allows you to get any alarm notifications via email. You can set it up and configure the unit all within that software.
And it highlights losses and allows you to calculate energy consumption, which can be key values in interpreting the data for your customer.
Yeah, so you can look at your customer's bill and you can put a kilowatt hours or a kVA pricing for that customer, and it will then populate that and tell you an exact cost for that logging period, which allows you to compare it against a meter, which is very handy when we know the rising prices at the moment. It just makes it that much easier to be able to compare that against the meter.
So we often hear from users that power and energy loggers can be a hassle to install, and if you install one incorrectly, you can get incorrect data. So what has Chauvin Arnoux done with the PEL113 to ensure even correct installation and accurate data?
So back to what we were speaking about earlier, we've done how-to videos on how to install them. We've done how-to videos on how to analyze the data. Not only that, we've done videos. We've done videos on how to set up the unit, how to configure the unit, and how to actually attach it to the network, with the CT, the voltage. So loads of videos on YouTube. Check them out.
Yes, I would advise that you do. The other thing I wanted to ask about is, in regards to setting up the PEL113, is it true you can check that connections are correct via the PEL transfer software and the Android app?
Exactly. So we have a vector diagram, and it will show you that basically if you've got the CT the correct way round, because we had these arrows on the CTs, it'll enable you to see if the voltage and current are in phase with each other.
So as we were saying, a simple setup and a correct setup is critical for accuracy, but it's also really important for safety. Now, the PEL113 is likely to be used in some hazardous and industrial areas. So what features are included on the PEL113 to make them suitable for applications in these environments?
So these are rated at 1,000 volts. It's the same with here. The isolated channels are all rated at 1,000 volts. Let's say, for instance, you're in the DNO side of stuff and the distribution network energy, you can actually reflect the 11 kV side or the 33 kV side. But when it comes to the safety, it's all rated at 1,000 volts.
If you'd like to learn more about the Chauvin Arnoux PEL113 Power Energy Logger, then click the box above or the link in the description, where you'll also find an option to purchase. But don't venture too far, as up next, we're going to be discussing why the PEL113 is an essential tool necessary for balancing our increased energy consumption with environmental targets. Rising dependence on digital services and increasing reliance on AI means we're living in an ever more energy-intensive world. However, there's also pressure to reduce carbon emissions and meet net zero targets. So how does the PEL113 help with balancing these energy needs with reducing our carbon footprint?
Unless we capture this data, we won't be able to see and analyse actually where those losses are. Where this comes into its own is obviously with the total harmonic distortion. We can see nonlinear loads. We can see imbalances. So any imbalances across the phases, if we need to balance the system better, it captures all that data very easily.
And so I suppose you can use those results to maximise your energy efficiency, which in turn reduces your emissions.
Exactly that. So as we discussed with the PEL51, we have reactive power, we have kVA and wattage. So that kVAR, that reactive energy, we can reduce that by analysing the data.
And can the PEL113, like the PEL51, be used to analyse whether you have capacity for green electricity, things like solar panels and EV chargers?
Yes, so you can see the actual consumption a household or commercial or residential site may be using. And with that data, you can then spec how many panels you need, how big the inverter needs to be and various other stuff, whether it be actually the battery sizes as well. You can size those batteries up. Basically, you need data. You need data to capture that data and then to be able to utilize it to then install. So it really helps with that.
And I suppose with energy efficiency, once you've made the changes, you can then use the PEL to check that they're working.
Exactly that. Once you've installed solar, there's lots of issues today with overvoltage across the country. Once we've installed solar, you can potentially get that overvoltage. And how do we know that the PV inverter isn't going to switch off after? So we can go and put a log on after and check that it's within those ESQCR 2002 tolerances.
So that's why the PEL113 is beneficial to society. But what is the advantage to the owner of the Power Energy Logger? So, for example, the electrician or the facilities manager or the business owner?
The advantages to a business owner is you can save energy. You can demonstrate to your customers where their losses are with energy. You can balance loads better. And not only that, a maximum demand. How do you know as a business owner that we can add more to that circuit? Or an electrician, how do we know definitively that we can add more to that circuit? By sticking this on, it's that simple. You stick it on and it will capture that. So then we can make a decision how much headroom we have.
For instance, it would allow you to make savings on your energy bills if you're a business owner or a facilities manager. Mm-hmm. You can meet. I know that like green initiatives are a big thing in like tenders and stuff. And I suppose you can prove that you are meeting those initiatives with the PEL113. But in terms of an electrician, how would they benefit?
So an electrician would benefit as they would be doing maximum demand quite frequently. Sometimes they'd want to see how much room they have on a circuit. The electrician might also want to see if the site has an overvoltage issue, if they're getting complaints with PV inverters switching off an EB. If they're on a commercial site, if you've got an incoming feed that's rated at a certain kVA, they might want to uprate that if their site's expanding. So they can demonstrate that, print a report, and then send that over to the DNO to then show how much headroom they need to expand by.
So of all the power and energy loggers available, why choose a Chauvin Arnoux PEL113 specifically?
So they're very affordable, they're very easy to use, and also they're very safe. So all of them, as far as safety ratings, they're rated at 1,000 volts and make it very easy for an electrician to pick a unit up, press this button to start it, and just really easy unit to use.
So as far as I'm aware, the PEL113 is available as part of 3 kits?
So we have the contractors kit, which comes in a hard case. I bought this kit today, which as you can see here is a little bit different. So from the contractors kit, there's various different kits that we can supply, but the PEL113 has got those 3 kits. Basically, it's a self-powering adapter here. Yeah. So do you need this with the unit? Or if you're residential, we have a figure of 8 main sleeves. So this does require a supply in the bottom. So you can either feed it by the application. So you can either feed it via the actual electrical setup that you're connecting it to via this, or we can use this via a socket.
So what does the PEL113 come with? Does that vary depending on which kit you choose?
Depending on which kit you use, it depends. If a customer's only wanting this for maximum demand, they might only need the CTs and this. So you can split those kits down depending on what the customer requires and what their applicational use case is.
So what are we looking at here? Because we've got these.
So we've got these 4 reeling boxes. They make it really handy and keep those leads all nice and safe. We also have crocodile clips that you can attach to buzz bars and various different other stuff. We also have these CTs, MA194s. We can go up to 1 meter long with these, so it's handy. You can weave them in and out of circuits. These are the 350s. We have a power adapter that basically, you put it in the top, that goes in the bottom, and it will, when you attach it to the electrical insulation, it will take a supply from V1 and neutral and supply that into this terminal here. And then we also have a figure of 8 mains lead that you can plug straight into the bottom. And our trusty SD card adapter.
So if you were to sum up the PEL113 in 2 words, what would they be?
So it's affordable, versatile and robust.
So thank you, Elliot. That was very interesting. I hope we've shown you exactly why the Chauvin Arnoux PEL113 Power and Energy Logger is the tool you need to make informed electricity and emissions savings in an increasingly energy-intensive world. Let us know in the comments. If you want more information, or maybe you'd like to purchase a PEL113, then visit our website, tester.co.uk. If you want more Chauvin Arnoux, do check out our previous episodes with them and subscribe so all future videos will come straight to you so you'll never miss an important development. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like as it helps us reach more future-focused viewers like you. Okay, thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.